Welcome to the HR department, your front row seat to conversations about the modern workplace and everything shaping the world of work. Powered by HRKyle Services, your guide through the world of work. This podcast is hosted by Kyle Patrick Smith and Becki Smith, two passionate voices bringing decades of experience, real-world insight, and a no-nonsense approach to the issues that matter most to employees, leaders, and HR pros alike. From hiring and culture to leadership and layoffs, nothing's off the table. So clock in, tune up, and get ready. The HR department starts now.
Okay, here we are, live and in living color. This is our first edition of the HR department, the revamped HRKyle Services podcast. I'm Kyle Smith of HRKyle Services, and this is Becki Smith of HRKyle Services. So we're glad to join you today.
Well, we're going to start today, Kyle, with this important topic that everybody's talking about today, artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk specifically about the business world.
Right.
I know there's a lot else going on out there, but specifics about the business world and how important it is. Don't be afraid of it. So let's kind of go your thoughts. Where do you want to start?
Well, there's a lot of places we can go with this. I think one thing that we've got to remember, and I'm seeing a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals, again, we're creeping further and further away in human resources, away from the human side of this. And I've got an article that's going to be coming out soon that talks about this in a little more depth than we're going to talk about here. But what I'm ultimately seeing is individuals in the HR world, for example, relying more and more on artificial intelligence to take the place of their interactions with their customers who are future or current employees or even past employees. So there's been just this influx of relying on that. And I've got an email that I shared, and I'll try to include it right here somewhere on this screen, from someone that I've known for a few years. Sat down and met with the person when I was in corporate HR, had a great relationship, good rapport between them. And then I get a message recently from them that couldn't have been more impersonal, as if I never knew them. And I was thrown aback by that a little bit, because this is a person that took pride, and even in the message, ironically enough, they say how their personal approach and how they like to work with their clients, but yet in the message, it couldn't have been more impersonal. It didn't use my name, as you'll see. The opening, very generic, hope you're doing well. That's what we would say on the street if we passed a stranger. But yet this is a person that I've sat and talked with at length about things in HR. So that's what we're starting to see. We're seeing this tool, which can be very valuable, come into a situation that's already becoming less personal and make it even less personal than it was.
Right. And I think that's the frustrating part. And we talk about using Indeed or the job boards.
Yeah.
And we suggest that you do not use those, because so much is AI and that tracking system, and it's not getting to a person.
Right.
Your resumes, your applications, they're in a different file, they're in a different system. They're not getting to the people.
Right. And again, you can use those systems, but if that's all you're relying on, and you and I have talked about this, if you're sitting in front of a computer and all you're doing is looking for job postings, sending your resume in and hoping and praying for the best, it's not happening, because again, we've got technology that's built into these systems. So AI is building the systems, and AI is also built into the systems to do an initial screening. Yep. So your resume, and this is no joke, may not reach a person until 3-4 steps down the line. And in fact, here's a figure that I came across recently, and I know it's going up. 90% of Fortune 500 companies are using applicant tracking systems that utilize AI to analyze candidate responses. So that means clearly that resume is not being reviewed by a person, again, until a couple of steps down the line. And even when you think you're communicating with a person in the system, it's in fact an artificial intelligence bot who's having a conversation with you. So even there, it lacks that personal touch. So again, as you were mentioning, we're telling our clients, let's work to get back to the human touch, whether you're on the organization side or whether you're on the candidate side. Look for opportunities to make a connection with the person, right?
Which is why you're getting those, within 30 seconds, you're getting a disqualified email.
Absolutely.
Or text. It's AI doing it. It's not a person saying, that no, we don't want you. It's AI.
Absolutely. And again, we know that. We know that because we work with those organizations that build those systems. We know that because we've worked in those systems for years upon years. So when you think about the candidates we work with, we are now building resumes that what I would call AI friendly. So in other words, when they reach that system, and AI is scanning it and it's looking for certain things based upon the job posting, the job title, and so on. We're making sure that the resumes that we create for our candidate clients meet those criteria so they're more likely to get beyond those next steps.
Which is what I was going to ask you. So you're good with AI doing resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn posts. You're good with those. Let's talk about
great question. So I'm good with them to a point. It's still, there's no way to ever build into those systems something that's exactly like me, because there's a whole history that goes along with me, and there's all this personality. And again, these systems, these AI or anything else that we're talking about, they're only as good as their inputs. Well, it's next to impossible to put every possible input that's come into my brain into a system so it looks and sounds exactly like me. It can look and sound similar. Some things can sound very similar. But to your question, I still say use it as a tool, but make sure it has your touch on it. Make sure it has that oversight. Look for things that make it you. I'll give you a quick example. So we, in our community, we like to follow local businesses. Well, unfortunately, there was a tragedy that took place in our local community very recently. And I happened to be on social media last night, and I was scanning through and looking at postings from different businesses in the area. And one of them made what would seem like a harmless reference in the posting. But in light of some of the things that had recently taken place, someone could view that posting as very insensitive to the issue. And I don't want to get into the details, but it could be viewed as very insensitive to what had just taken place. So I reached out to the business owner to say, hey, you may not have thought about this, but in light of some of the things that have happened recently in our community, this posting could be viewed very negatively as related to your business. And, they were all thankful and appreciative. And what they said was exactly what you said. It was created by AI. It was set up in a system so it would be released in advance. So here's a posting that was created probably a week or so ago that was scheduled to be released on that particular date. They had forgotten about it.
Right.
And there it goes out there. So there's always risk here where it needs that human touch. It needs that human oversight. If you want to call it auditing these systems, absolutely, because they're not foolproof. We're not foolproof. And especially if you're already feeding into a system with flawed information, it's only going to perpetuate that flaw. So again, These tools are great, but don't overuse them.
So what I like to do when I use ChatGPT, it is a time saver.
Yes.
Efficiency is what I'm looking at. But I always go in there and I change the verbiage. I will change it to what I want it to say. I will add possibly people, if we want some of our clients' names in there, I'll put their names in there so that they see it as well. But I change it to make it sound more like me.
Exactly. And notice something else you said. You also look to connect with people that are reading it. So, again, AI is not going to know that. I mean, I guess maybe at a point it could, but as you're looking at that post, you're thinking, okay, here's certain people I want to have read it. Here's certain people that this might be relevant to. So again, there's the personal touch. And again, like you said, you're changing some of the wording so it does sound like you. And maybe it's got a little bit of slang in it or terminology that you would use, again, that the system may or may not ever pick up on or what have you. So again, you're touching it, you're using it to save you time, but ultimately you're able to tweak the message.
Right. And we've heard different sides about plagiarism. We've had one gentleman who runs an AI company who said that it's plagiarism if you don't change some of the words. However, from what I've read and another person I spoke to, that it's still in kind of litigation out there, the talking about it, discussing it. So you can use exactly what you get from your AI person companion. You can use exactly what they say. But again, just like writing a paper, if I, don't like the word, I get a thesaurus and look up a different word. I change it to how I speak. into what my tone sounds like.
Well, think about what you just said there too in your example. You have two people or two examples there of people that we considered experts, literally experts. The one gentleman, we were at a conference, he spoke from an expert perspective. In another situation, these people were speaking from expert perspective. So here you have two experts talking about a topic, and they're landing in two different places. So that alone tells you that, hey, great tool, but make sure that you know how it's being used. Walk carefully, understand the ramifications of using the content and where it can be used and how it can be used. And I think the other thing that along that same line that we have to think about, and I think about our conversation about that gentleman that you're talking about, one thing that concerned me was he was heavily encouraging people to enter into his system all this information about themselves, personal information and so on, so they could, the technology could get to know them better.
Right.
Well, think about what you're giving that tool and where that information is residing. And I guess more importantly, who has access to it or who could have access to it. So I think, again, great tool, but we still need to tread lightly and think about what are we giving up? What freedoms, what security, whatever you want to call it, are we giving up in order to have something that makes life easier?
Right.
And I think that's true of any tool, and this is really no different. Where I want to come back to, though, is where we started on this. It's a great tool, but I'm concerned with how it's migrating us further away from the personal touch.
Right.
And I think we're suffering as leaders. I think we're suffering as a profession as it relates to human resources as we fall further down that road and have less oversight and less human interaction around it.
And we are true believers in everything that we do with HRKyle Services in the personal touch, whether it's phone calls, whether it's emails, meeting in person, meeting Zoom. It's about the personal touch and connecting with people that way. So yeah, if AI is going to get in the way of that, don't use it.
Right. Well, and again, I hesitate to say that because that's our competitive advantage.
Right.
Quite frankly, our competitive advantage is that personal touch, that white glove treatment, whatever you want to call it. When you work with our organization, regardless of the capacity, you're working with us. Are there systems behind the scenes that support us? Absolutely. What organization doesn't do that? But ultimately, you're working with this team right here and all of the experience that goes along with that. And again, that a system can never replicate, it can never replace. And we're fully committed to that. That's not going to change. So for us, AI, just like a lot of other things, there's like a hammer and a screwdriver and all these other things. They're tools of the trade. But ultimately, we're the skilled craftsmen, the skilled tradesmen and women that you're going to be working with that put out the product and partner with you to lead to your success.
Yeah, and I would like to end this conversation on the fun parts of AI.
And Becki gets the last word.
Yes, of course I did. So I'd like to end it on the fun parts. I know somebody who is writing a book and is using ChatGPT. She's even given her ChatGPT a name. Yep. They have conversations with each other. Right. Recipes, I've heard people say they look up recipes. I like to do images. You can design an image. You can ask AI to do something professionally, do it in a fun way, do it in a short way, long form. So have fun with it. Play around, have fun with it, and use it so that it looks like you.
Absolutely. Great way to end. Again, thank you for joining us for our first episode of the HR department. You're now free to leave. Yay.
Thanks for joining us on the HR department, powered by HRKyle Services, your trusted partner for HR consulting, outplacement, talent strategy, leadership development, and career coaching. If today's conversation got you thinking, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with anyone navigating the ever-changing world of work. To learn more about our services, whether you're a company leader, an HR pro, or a job seeker, visit hrkyle.com. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, hiring with intention, and showing up for your people.